Hey Ricky, you know what was awesome?
What's that?
Going to school.
Yeah,
I never
kinda.
thought I'd actually. I never actually thought I'd say that until my kids can.
Oh, yeah.
Um, and it's like oh yeah, there was a lot of things about going to school that was a lot of fun, and it didn't have a whole lot to do with necessarily learning. So, but figured we could talk about what it was like to be in school whenever we were kids and stuff. So, as the as the school year kind of gets rolling on and we're trying to figure out this whole new technological craziness, let's talk about school days
Yeah.
with a Z, like Hot for Teacher and Van Halen. So I don't know if you want to start in like elementary, back to preschool, back to daycare. I don't know, but
Yeah, I mean, it's the whole ball of wax, right? I mean, normally you're going to end up with your high school years because those are probably the most memorable. But yeah, I mean, it kind of starts off. And I think in the past episodes I've talked about I jumped around a lot of schools. So I even get confused on certain years where I was. So we would move in the middle of school year like two or three times, and it seemed like I was going to the
oh wow.
same two or three schools there for a little bit, but I can't tell you when and where. It all happened between third grade and fifth grade.
Well, that's cool because I mean we had a. Oh, I mean, I moved back to Houston when I was in the eighth grade, but when I was a kid, I was in went to preschool, and then we moved down when I was like in first grade, I guess. When we moved to Portland, and same thing. We went to this like little Christian school in the town until I was in about the fifth grade, and then they actually shut down. Like the school side of things shut down, and so I moved into public school, which was not as big of a culture shock as you would have thought because it was still a very small town, so everybody still knew each other, even if these kids went to the actual elementary school and we went to like the little Christian school.
Yeah.
Um, but but yeah, I mean, so like I had those things where like up flipping schools and then up flipping cities and then so I know how that feels, man. But
Yeah,
yeah, man, I guess like do you remember like the first day of school, like whether it's preschool or pre-K or whatever?
maybe not the specific first day. I did start in kindergarten, but it was 1976. So our graduation pictures, we were wearing the big Uncle Sam hats,
Nice.
diploma in hand. But Miss Janie. I mean, I even remember her name. I mean, she was my first teacher, and that was in Greenfield High School for all you local folks. The home of the Yellow Jackets. Even though the mascot is orange and black, it's the Yellow Jackets. So,
Of course.
yeah. But yeah, I mean, I was at Greenfield for the first several years, and then, like I said, from there I bounced around between the other small towns that were around there close. So, but yeah, man, kindergarten rocked.
Same thing, man. I was started off at Long Point Baptist Church, church school here in Houston. It was right around the corner from my house, and that's where my dad had gone to school when he was a kid. And I remember two things about it. Well, actually, more like three. I remember the smell of paste. Like I'd never
Oh,
experienced paste. Like, so I walked in, and you had your school supplies or whatever, and there was already kids playing with the paste. And I remember that minty smell and being like, "That smells awesome."
yeah.
Like this, like I'm going places. Number two, I remember these kids. Like there was just a whole room full of kids, and like before this, I didn't go to daycare. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, so this is the first time I'd ever been around that many people. And there's all these kids just running around and jumping and crashing into things and screaming and like, ah! And I remember just like looking around, being like, what is go? And the teacher, no lie, this is in the '70s too. the teacher busts out and has this long paddle
Oh
and
yeah.
just pops her hand, and the entire room just shuts down. Like everybody sits down in a circle, and we're all like, but yeah, I remember that. Um,
I got my first
and I
I
remember,
got my first paddling in kindergarten, so I was off to a good start. We're getting ready to go on a field trip, and everybody was just super excited, and I was super excited and wasn't listening, and bang, 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 there you go.
man, the way the way of the paddle is like it's the way of the lore. Like
Right.
like kids can hardly believe that that was a thing, but man, no, like it wasn't the principal. The teachers had them in their
Oh
desk.
yeah,
You know?
yeah. They were allowed
But
allowed to use it as will.
I remember like my first week of school or whatever. I had a little friend. He's my age, obviously, in my class, and his brother uh, was one of the older kids, and I remember him being like, you know, talking to him like, "Who's that?" He's like, "Oh, that's my brother." I'm like, "Well, how old is he?" He's like, "He's 10," and this kid was a monster. I mean, God, he might have been like 4 feet tall, but I was like 4.5, 5 years old. I remember just like looking up at this kid, just being like, wow. I wonder what, it's like 10 was so far away because I was like 5. That's twice my age and like 3 times my
Right.
size. But like how big how big people seemed whenever you were
Oh
so
yeah.
little.
Yeah, it's amazing because my wife talks about that. There's a lady, a local lady here named Doris Owens, little bitty lady. But when my wife was little, she would come and like watch over the class, and they thought she was such a big person, and she's just a little bitty short person. And yeah, it's funny how that perspective is just it really messes with your head, and it's amazing how those are the things you remember, right? It's
Hmm.
always those things because I remember riding the school bus and there was you know the kids that were a few years older that had taken paper and made their own book covers for their books, and they were drawing stormtroopers and stuff on it, and I was like, wow. I thought, man, this is what I want to be when I grow up, and
Hmm.
but no, I didn't. I don't think I ever took a book home, so.
Oh man, but yeah, dude. So like this school, I mean, I was 5, so I mean, it was
Yeah,
40 years ago. It's like you just have those little highlights. But I think in one of our prior episodes we mentioned the Hamburglar
yeah.
from McDonald's. Well, the school we had a fall festival, and I was only there for I think a year and a half. Like I think we moved either at the end of my first grade year or in the like right in the middle of it. But so I remember getting a good grade on a spelling test and my mom being happy. Like I remember those little kind of things, but I don't remember details.
Yeah.
I remember we had this Halloween festival thing, and they brought in the McDonaldland characters, and the Hamburglar scared me so bad. I made my folks leave. Like not go stand over there, but we're out of here.
Oh.
And uh,
Well,
but yeah, so then
I'll be honest.
no,
Earlier when you said paste, I had a flashback as well, but not of the paste glue. We did I don't know if y'all did this at y'all school or not, but the fluoride treatment. Yeah, did y'all
mm-mm,
ever do that? They would
uh-uh,
sit like your whole class down on the floor, and you get this little glop of nasty fluoride paste. And it was a hygiene thing. They're making everybody take this and brush their teeth with it. This stuff would gag you. I guarantee
oh
you, the
no.
people that are out there that know what I'm talking about, I guarantee you they're gagging right now. This was the nastiest stuff ever. And, I'm wincing now just thinking about it. But they would literally
Oh yeah.
set everybody down, and you just walk into like a lobby and just sit on the floor, and you grab a little spit cup and you grab this paste, and they give you a toothbrush, and you would dip it on your toothbrush and just brush your teeth, and you spit it out in that cup. I'm telling you, dude, I've seen kids hurl.
I don't remember that.
I think they got better later on because I think my daughter and them used to do it, and they were like, "Oh, it's like peppermint," and I'm like, "God, this stuff tasted like rat's butthole." I mean, it was the nastiest stuff, you know. So yeah,
somebody at some point did take that Mary Poppins spoonful of sugar thing serious, because like even now, like I have to like both my daughters, for if they're just bored and they decide they want to pop an Advil because it's grape flavored, they'll just be like, my head hurts. I'm like, okay, dude, no. You can start chewing the adult aspirin if you want, but
hey man, I have to admit, I was a junkie for the St. Joseph baby aspirins, man. Those little orange ones.
Oh yeah,
just
those
eat the whole
awesome.
Eat the whole bottle.
Oh yeah, the ones that dissolved. Oh man, those things are good.
I also remember, the neighborhood kids going hanging out their house, and they had the Flintstone Chewables, which I had never seen before, and I was like, "What's that?" Well, they're Flintstones, and you eat them. I'm like, "Cool, let me try one." I was like, "This tastes terrible." They were not good.
Turning into a junkie at a young age, like getting all hopped up on Flintstones vitamins.
Flintstones vitamins. Yeah.
Contraband drugs.
And even though they tasted bad, you still ate them because you thought you were supposed to,
Oh, yeah.
That kid mentality. This is for kids. So, my granddaughter comes over the house. She'll be like, "Can you put it on a kid's show, please?" when we're watching TV. So it's that thing of, well, it's made for a kid, so I have to do it.
Of course. Dude, yeah, I mean... That's the problem, is like all the kids stuff that we liked was awesome, and all the kids stuff that they like kind of sucks. You know this by the fact that they've brought back. I don't know when's the last time you've been to a department store, but they brought back He-Man.
Yeah,
like for 2020, like they brought back like the original He-Man line.
Yeah,
the only difference is they're jointed now instead of stiff. But yeah, I mean, and I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
That because they rehash all of these things, but they're brought back G.I. Joe, they brought back Transformers, like all of these things were super successful. They brought back because it was awesome then,
right? It'll be awesome the next time. Yeah,
it'll be awesome the next time.
Yeah, I mean, why not? Because I believe they're doing another He-Man. I don't know if it's an animated thing or what, but I mean, they're trying to bring it back.
I'll be right there with them, man, because I was loving me some He-Man. But yeah, dude, so like, it was, like I said, moved away like first grade, so then I started in little town's Christian school, and, it's like, we didn't not know for nothing. We went to school and learned stuff and went home. And then we had we had our friends that were in the neighborhood that didn't go to our school. They're like, "Well, where do you go?" And they're like, "Oh, we go to such and such." And they're like, "Oh, okay, where do you go?" "Oh, we go to this place." And I'm like, "Cool, want to ride bikes?" It's
right.
like, it's kind of an odd. Well, right now we can't even ride bikes because of human trafficking and Ebola and stuff. But, like nobody cared. You just be like playing in the neighborhood. But, man. Was it, I guess I was second grade? That would have been about right. That's when, like, He-Man and G.I. Joe, well, mostly He-Man. He-Man was starting to hit.
Yeah.
Kind of. And I did a podcast with a guy who owns a local toy store here that was like, if you were like, 6, 7 years old in 1982, 83,
yeah,
and you didn't get Castle Grayskull for Christmas because your parents didn't like you, because they were like $9.99 and came with 4 figures. Like, they wanted these things to be out. It's like that's what everybody wanted. I woke up on Christmas Day and there they were, like boom, and my dad was all grumbly because of course Skeletor is the evil. Everything on the bad guy side is evil, but even on the good guy side, everything's still magical, and and he's like, I'm trying to do this whole Like, so I remember telling my mom, send my son to Christian school and do all this stuff, and then he gets all these demonic toys in the mail. I didn't
Oh,
care, man. I was a bliss. But then, that's when, like, so we're second grade, so we bring our He-Man guys to school. And the teacher would be like, you can't do that. Like, somebody would get caught. Like, you can't bring He-Man guys to school.
right.
So what we figured out that is if you broke off one of their arms and then put a sword in the hand, that it didn't quite count as a full guy, but we could still sword fight with each other.
Wow.
That's the best. Yeah. Of course, that didn't fly either. We got that banned as well. But
Well, of course, at that point, I'm thinking of third grade for me. I guess I knew all along that I was just going to be that guy, right? And I may have told this before on here, I can't remember, but, we did show and tell. And they would let people bring their little Peter Pan records and all that stuff.
oh yeah, you did mention that.
I brought Kiss Destroyer and Queen News of the World, two of the most horrifying album covers in history. And just the looks on the other kids' faces were just like, to me, it's like totally normal. I'm like, yeah, this is cool stuff. Because I was hanging out with, some older kids that would babysit. Matter of fact, one of my cousins was my babysitter, huge Kiss fan. So I was exposed to all this stuff early on. But yeah, man, I took Kiss Destroyer and threw it up there with the city burning behind them. Everybody's like, I don't think I want to listen to that, So, okay, how about this one? I pull out News of the World, which is where the big robot is stabbing Freddie Mercury with his finger with the blood dripping off of it. And they're freaking out. And, of course, the first song on there is We Will Rock You, so, yeah. Yeah, I was just going to be that guy, so. Great. You brought an Alabama record? Great. Watch this.
Well, of course. I was kind of that guy too. It took me a little bit, but I actually did that. And I don't know, maybe it's just my personality. Maybe I've just always been a contrarian in that, oh, you think that's crazy? Check this out. You know what I mean? Because I remember that. I remember being, who was it? Because it was, again, Christian school. I remember this kid. He was an older kid. We went over to his house, something to do, because my mom worked at the church. And so we went over to this kid's house, and he was much older than me. He was in, 6th or 7th grade, and I was in 2nd, so he's a pretty big dude. And he had all of these tapes by this band called Petra.
Oh, yeah.
Ever heard of them?
Oh, yeah.
And it was rocking.
Yeah, Christian rock.
My dad listened to country at the time, and we're talking the old 80s radio country. So that was all that was on the radio, and he had all these records, but I was too young to really start sampling that stuff yet, because again, I'm 6, 7 years old. This kid had Petra, and so we went in his room, and he played a couple of tapes, and he had Michael Jackson's Thriller, and so he actually had a dual deck boombox, and he taped me a couple of records.
Yeah.
While we were there, and my dad didn't care. He was like, it's Christian rock, and he knew who Michael Jackson was. So he probably didn't understand. He did not know yet, because it wasn't Thriller. It was the prior album. So Off the Wall, yeah, and but yeah, so I had tapes, but I didn't have a tape deck at home. Dad had a tape deck, so I'd put them in there and play them, and
Yeah.
But then man, when you talk about it at school, oh yeah, I'm a metalhead, because
I've got Petra.
Yeah. Well, I mean, consider I remember there was this kid in my class. He was like, "Oh no, that's bad stuff." I'm like, okay, dude.
Yeah.
And again, like you say with Kiss Destroyer, because it was not very long after.
Yeah.
Just you wait. It was just a year or so, a hop, skip, and a jump, and
Yeah. Right.
It was uh-oh.
They were the biggest thing on the planet, and they were devil worshippers, and ran the gambit with all that. So, hey, let's talk about this. Okay, what's the were you asked out on a date first, or did you ask somebody out on a date first?
That was one of those things where I don't really know. I think because, and honestly, it was one of those things where there was a girl that I liked, and I didn't know that she liked me, and then we all kind of got together, and then we were at a place, and it was like, oh, this is what's happening.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it was not like oh, hey, this is what we're doing, but then it's like, okay, let's dance. And it's like, oh, like, oh, we're like, because, and I was going to say, like the school dances, seventh, sixth, seventh, eighth grade.
Yep.
The first time you get there and your mom gets you all gussied up and gives you your dad's cologne, and you standing there and like, these kids nervous in an auditorium, right, going like that scene from Dazed and Confused,
mm-hmm,
like knocks it out of the park, where they're just when they bust in there and they're just playing Nazareth and everybody's just kind of looking around, like that was my hometown and stuff. But yeah, the first time I realized that I was on a date, I didn't realize that I was on a date. So, how about yourself?
Well, mine, I was in fifth grade. It's funny I remember this, but it's fifth grade, and it was the girl that lived across the road from me. Her name was Stephanie, and she came up and asked me to go to see a movie with her. This is 81, I think, and she wanted to go see My Bloody Valentine.
Wow.
And at the time, I actually said, no, that's okay. But that was the first time I was asked to go out on a date with somebody, and she wanted me and her to go see My Bloody Valentine.
Dude, wow. That was almost a match made in heaven right there. Fifth grade girl asking you to go see the minor, the killer minor horror movie. Wow.
Yeah, so that's a weird one.
Yeah.
Oh. But yeah, I mean, it's funny again how you just put these things together, because it's all this sequential, jumbled up mess of stuff, right? So, but dude, yeah,
for real, because I hadn't thought about it, because you're like, because of course, like the asking out on a date sort of thing. So like that's anchor in my mind, and I can't even remember the girl's name. She was just one of us in the dork group that was kind of in the seventh grade that we always hung out. We were in what was her name? I think it was Michelle, because we all went to like the science teacher had a thing where we'd go like look through telescopes and stuff. So we'd show up on Friday nights and look through telescopes at stuff. And it's like we were all in our kind of little group. But man, I was in like the third or fourth grade, I guess. And this, dude, you'll love this. There's a way you can get away with stuff now that you could not get away with then. So, of course,
I got a bunch of those coming up.
You know how we were loving on some ninjas, right? we were loving on, dude. Me and my friends just ninja-tastic. So the church school we were at, it had one of those big wooden jungle gym things. It was kind of like a fort, with all the bridges and the chains and all of that splintery stuff. And so we used to fight, and girls chase boys, and girls chase, boys chase girls, and blah, 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 blah.
Right.
Well, there's this girl there, and her name was Tamara. And I just thought she was the bee's knees. She was just cute as could be. But of course, when girls are cute as the button, they don't pay attention to you in any sort of way. But she had an older brother, like that was a year older than us, because she was my age and he was a year older, that just used to mess with me all the time. Like he'd trip me, he'd just give me a hard time. And finally, I got tired of it, and I told him that if he didn't stop, I was going to kick his ass. And like not exactly those words.
Right.
But I'm just like, you're going to be sorry. You might get a knuckle sandwich.
Right? Yeah.
And so this is over the course of like 4 or 5 days, I guess. He was antagonizing me. I was crushing on his sister, and then I threatened him. And then at some point, a couple of her friends kind of got me in a corner and were like, "Do you like her?" And I was like, "Don't know how to answer," so I just ran away. So then one of them came up later, like the next day or two, and was like, "Well, she likes you." And so then I'm like, "Well, tell her I like her too." So then that means I got a girlfriend.
That's all.
I hadn't actually spoken a word
Right, yeah.
to her, but I was just like, okay, so I am king of the playground. I'm king of the school. Like, this girl I've been crushing on likes me, and I like her back. So that, I don't know where that means, but this is where we're going.
Right.
We had a bench where the teachers used to sit, and it had a canopy over it, and the support of the canopy was this X, you know, 2x4s.
Yep.
And me and my buddies used to play ninjas in that. And, like, the thing that we like to do is crawl up into the X and then, like, swing out of it, like, with a flying kick.
Yeah.
So I was sitting in there waiting for my buddy to come by so I could leap out and jump on his shoulders. But what ended up happening was this girl's older brother comes running by kicking a soccer ball right as I jumped out to leap. And I caught him with both feet right in the mouth, like right in the teeth. Busted his lips all up. Like completely just dropped him. I was so, like, I really didn't mean to do it.
Right.
I totally, it was a complete accident. I felt so bad. He was crying, he's bleeding, but he did not believe me. That, like, and his friends were like, "Oh no, they've been at it all week. Now you just, like, kicked him in the face." And I was just like, I don't know what this means for the relationship with his sister. I don't know. Like, you know, I'm like third, fourth grade, but for jumping out and giving this dude a double dose of Converse All-Star right in the freaking lip, I got sent to the corner of the playground for 5 minutes.
Whoa, man!
He got taken inside and probably had to wash his mouth out with fluoride.
5 whole minutes, man. I got
sidelined for 5 minutes.
That's strict.
I got a very strong pointing at by the teachers that were like, "We do not kick each other in this school." Dude, I was afraid I was going to jail. Like, I remember, dude, I was crying. "I am so sorry, I didn't mean to do that."
Yeah,
but yeah,
I've got one to go with that, man. The only fight I've ever been in my whole life. This is 5th grade. Again, this is at a different school than where Stephanie was. This is in Sharon. And this guy was a bully. Picked on me every day. And every day he'd try to get people riled up. And he'd say, "You just meet me, and you meet me after school. Meet me after school." And that was his thing. He said it every day. Well, one day I said, "All right, I'll meet you out there." And then he was like, "Well, I mean it, though. I'll meet you after school." "Okay, I'll be there." Well, we get out there, and he starts, you know, he doesn't, it's like he wants to fight, but he wants to do more talking than anything else, right? Be a big bragger or whatever. Well, you start with the name-calling stuff, and I'm sorry. I mean, I go into pure Carlin mode. I was watching Carlin at a way too early an age. So after I said a few nice things about his mom, he couldn't stand it anymore, and he come running at me full speed ahead. And he leaped like he was going to tackle me, and I just kicked him right in the throat. just a straight up kick, like kicking a kickball. And that dude hit the ground. His eyes rolled back in his head. And I mean, there's a bunch of people standing around, and I'm freaking out, right? So I get on top of him. I'm like shaking him, trying to get him up. And everybody's like, "Man, look at Rick. He's going insane. He's going to choke him to death." I'm going, "Get up, dude. Get up." You know. So needless to say, after that, nobody ever wanted to fight me because I'll kick you in the throat. But I wanted to step back. Well, this is actually 6th grade. This is when we moved to Gleason for the first time. This is the school I ended up graduating at from 6th grade to senior. And I wanted to bring this up because this is that thing like you were just talking about, the girl-guy relationship. And just like with Stephanie, I wasn't a fan of girls at the time, right? I'm a boy, right? I don't care. And even though the movie's cool, and Stephanie, you're cool, but don't worry about it. But I was sitting in my desk, and Behind me was a girl named Trisha Huey. Trisha, if you're listening, you know this is true. But she would mess with me all the time, like pull my hair, all that typical stuff. And so instead of a guy doing it to a girl, she was doing that stuff to me. And then one day the teacher left the room. Well, we had our box of crayons and all that stuff, right? The big, box that you kept that had your pencils and all that stuff in there, your pencil sharpeners, under my desk. Well, she stomped on it, messed it all up. And like I said, she kept messing with me, and she ended up taking double-sided tape and pulling the tape part off of it, just wadding up the adhesive stuff, and just smacked it in my head and just started rubbing it in my hair.
Oh, no.
I turned around, and I open hand smacked her right across the face. Just wham! And then not long after that, the teacher walks back in, and I've got my hair up in the air with a pair of school scissors, chomping away at this chunk of crap in my hair. She's behind me with a big red handprint on her face and crying. And the teacher says, "What's going on in here?" And I turned and I looked at Trisha. Trisha looked at the teacher and said, "Nothing."
That's awesome.
I can't remember if we got in trouble or not, but man, I did. I hauled off and I knocked her into the marl. I didn't know at the time you weren't supposed to hit girls, but
Yeah.
She took it like a man.
Try real. Just say like it's the slap fight there.
Needless to say, later on we got along great, and we're still good buddies. So, but she deserved it that day.
Oh yeah.
And who knows?
Man,
I'm not putting words in her mouth. That maybe she kind of liked me at the time, and that was just her way of flirting. I don't know, but it didn't work. Oh. So what about lunchrooms? We got to talk about lunchrooms, right?
Well, absolutely. I was going to say, so like whenever I was in elementary school, then we moved. The church shut down. So then, or they're not the church, but the school part of the church shut down. So I was 6th grade. I moved into the elementary school. And I knew a lot of the guys that were there, but I also kind of knew them from a distance. Like, I knew that guy who rode his bike was going to the elementary school, and I knew he lived like 2 streets over, but I didn't know him. Mm-hmm. But that's where I met a lot of my friends.
Yeah.
That would become, like, I'm even still friends with them on Facebook now, It's like, hey, man, what's going on? Like, nice tattoo, that kind of stuff. And there was like 4 or 5 of us, and I was just like, it was great because, like, new school, even though it's same town, but new school, you just walk in and there's like, whoa, I know him, and I know him, and I know her, and I know her, and whoa, and it's like, I want to know her. But
is that the biblical no, or is that just no?
That's all of the above. But yeah, you say so. Then we go in the lunchroom. But that was the first time, because in the the private school, it was a lot smaller. There was a whole lot fewer kids, and things were quite a bit more well regulated. Now, you could kick a kid in the face and not get in trouble.
Sure.
But you couldn't raise your voice or get up and leave your seat and run around the lunchroom. But when I started 6th grade at this other one, it was like all bets are off, man. And there's kids over there like putting mashed potatoes on their spoons. And
oh, absolutely.
Across, it's just like food fights and kids doing gross things. And of course, then you get a bunch of guys who are now right at the cusp of puberty. Girls are starting to blossom out, and man, you talk about like some pirate talk going on, and I was just absolutely shocked. Like, my poor ears were just like, I don't even know what you're talking about. I'm just laughing, because to not laugh is to be kicked out, like completely social outcast. I have no idea what you're talking about. But yeah, like the lunchroom was just absolute bedlam. It was so great though, because it's like this just bastion of freedom. It's like you get a whole bunch of peas. I don't even like peas. Fling them once, give them to that guy.
Well, our thing was, you would take your pickles and you get some packets of ketchup, and you dip your pickles in the ketchup and put them on your fork and smack them up on the ceiling, and they would stick. And it got to where you would do like stacks of pickles. You know, hey, he's doing 18 pickles today. Smack! You know? Yeah, there was that. There was, if you caught somebody leaning back in their chair, you know, this is back when they actually had chairs and not you know, benches or whatever. They would lean back in their chair and you take a package of mustard or whatever and put it underneath. That way when it came down, it just go across the floor. You know, just a streak of mustard, you know, that goes over 3 tables away, you know.
Of course.
So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. That was the fun good stuff, man.
And I will say, Bradford School, man, they had the best lunch of all the schools I went to, man. They had a strawberry cake. And that was the thing, is they had desserts laid out like a dang buffet. You know, you got your regular, you know, school food, but dessert was like, man, a piece of strawberry cake bigger than a slice of pizza. And it was great, you know. But yeah, school pizza, man. Come on.
Dude, I was going to say, that was the thing. It like sometimes it got hard to decide because like my mom back then, like she got the Christian school food was included with tuition. So I ate lunch at school every day and whatever it was. So you just used to it. You know, you'd have sandwiches and hamburgers and
right.
You know, normal fare. And it wasn't neither good nor bad or whatever. It was just food. Well, when I started elementary school, you know, public school, you had to pay for your lunch. And even though it was like a quarter or 50 cents or something, Mom was like, So she'd like she'd make my lunch. And that was fine because normally, you know, it's like, you know, call it what it is, a bologna and cheese sandwich.
Right.
With, you know, with Dorito chips and a Star Crunch and, you know, a little note that says I love you in my He-Man lunchbox. So I was cool.
Yeah.
You know, but then yeah, you're right. Pizza day.
Yeah.
How do I get more of that?
Right.
Like, I gotta go get back in the line, and I don't want the corn.
Right.
Just stack up the pizzas and the burritos, man.
Yeah.
Those deep fried chimichanga burritos.
Oh yeah.
You know, and a funny story about that. So like, we've got a convenience store chain called Stripes down here, and they sell those burritos.
Yeah.
Now, they don't just look like those burritos. They taste like the school burritos.
Yeah.
And, you know, so like every now and then if you're just like, life's too hard and I'm both nostalgic and suicidal, you buy 2 for $1 or 2 for 50 cents or whatever because they're just artery cloggers.
Oh, yeah.
Right? But then I'm sitting there being like, okay, now let's think about this. If in, you know, I think it was a couple of years ago they were selling them, it's like, if we're in the 20s, you know, we're in the late teens, and you can get 2 of these things for $1. What was their costing for the state?
Right.
In those volumes of the millions that they were passing out and charging you, you know, 50 cents or $1 for back then. Like the state was raking in the dough.
probably about 8 cents.
Yeah. But
yeah, man. Well, it's funny you say that because I just recently got one of those. I stopped we have Little General gas stations here, and they're part of BP somehow. Mm-hmm. And yeah, man, they got them, those fried burritos, man. You get them and nothing tastes like them. And you know they're just frozen burritos. They just deep fry them. That's all it is. That's the magic.
Yeah.
And
but they're still awesome.
Oh, you take a bite and you hear angels sing. Oh, it's like
because you'd have certain days when you were like, all excited that you were bringing your lunch, and then you have other days where you're like,
dang it!
Anybody? People will be like, dude, then they'll be like, man, I'll take your Star Crunch. You're like, nope, I'm keeping the Star Crunch.
Star Crunch is hands off.
Star Crunch. Star Crunch was.
Yeah.
They still are.
Yeah.
They still are, but again, you have to get both nostalgic and just ready for a big old sugar rush. Because
I'm a zebra cake guy, but I'm with you though. I love Star Crunch too. But yeah, man, we had oddly enough, most of the food at Gleason was pretty dang decent. I mean, like I said, pizza was a given, right? Nobody missed pizza day. We had shepherd's pie, or they called it hamburger pie, what they called it at school. And it was great. I mean, you were happy when you had it, and the chili was actually pretty dang good. So, you know, There's the other things
Yeah,
like you said, the corn and the peas and all that stuff. You're like, yeah, don't even waste your time on that.
yeah. I
So
mean, that's a farm subsidy right there because
yeah,
everybody knows that nobody's eating that. They can process it through, and it's like money laundering. It's
right.
like, oh, we bought so many tons of corn that ended up in the landfill. It's not, it's okay. But man, it was just getting to high school, which
Yeah.
was so my freshman year of high school, Stratford over here, uh, was the first year. I guess the previous year they did something, but they banned off campus lunch, so you couldn't leave to
Ah.
go, you know, which sucked because prior you could. So if you looked across the street, if you look that way, there's a McDonald's, there's a KFC, there's a Popeyes across the street, there's a General Joe's Chopsticks. If you look that way, there was like a Wendy's and a Taco Bell. Like there was so much stuff just
Dang it.
right around the school, and it was all just custom built there because they could have off-campus lunch. But then when we got there, it's like, nope, you're still having the same old junior high food that you had before. So then you start bringing your lunch or trying to sneak out or whatever. And
Right.
I remember like because in order to get to the safer side, because the school was surrounded, like you got to think militarily, like it's wide open. Don't go through that. You got to be covered. So if you go this way, you can kind of duck behind the tennis courts and then go behind the backstop of the baseball field and then hop the fence and you're in the parking lot of McDonald's, right? Like
Yeah.
you don't think about it now. You'd be like, I'm not gonna hop a freaking fence to get to McDonald's, but we did because it was not, you know. But man, then they opened up the snack bar and the Coke machines, and it was like. I think that was the beginning of the end because the snack bar you could get the burritos, you could get the
Yeah.
pizza, none of the sides. It was cheap. The chicken supreme. But man, so me and my buddy Jason, we had a friend named Samir who like I'm 6'3", and Samir was probably like 5'5", so he's like stood about like this on me. And rain or shine, hot or cold, he always wore a one of those pull over beach ponchos, the woven ones
Yeah.
with the hood.
Right.
And my friend Jason just used to think it was the funniest thing. He'd like order 2 or 3 hamburgers and just drop them into Samir's hood, so that like just like going through the lunch line, the lunch lady wouldn't see the food,
Yeah.
so she wouldn't charge him or whatever.
Sure.
But then Samir's like, "Why are you always doing that?" Like Jason's like, "Because I don't have any money."
Right.
He's like, "Well, either bring money or He's like, "But why are you putting it in my hood?" He's like. Because then I'm not the one getting busted for stealing, dude.
Because I don't have a way to
So
I don't have a way to hold them on me and not make it look like I'm stealing something.
exactly.
Nobody's looking at
Samir's
you.
like, oh. Samir's like, that's what you've been doing this whole time? Like, he didn't quite understand. He finally figured it out.
That's pretty brilliant.
It's a pretty smart idea.
Yeah. We didn't have Coke
yeah,
machines. We had you could actually get iced tea though, sweet tea. So
Oh, wow.
how is one better than the other? Hey, let's get these kids. We had you had an ice cream cone machine, and you had a sweet tea, but you couldn't have Cokes or soft drinks. I'm like, okay.
Okay.
Oh,
Oh, no, we had a bunch of soft drink machines all around the bottom of the stairs.
Ah.
And then, like, so my high school from aerial view kind of looked like a figure 8. So it was, rectangular building with 2 courtyards, and then the lunchrooms were kind of in between. And then
yeah,
it was 3 stories high, and there's classrooms around like that.
yeah,
But the courtyards were all, like the entire thing was completely wide open. So you could eat lunch outside. You could go play basketball. You could go to to the gym, whatever. But yeah, the food, the food was limited until they brought in that snack bar, but that was awesome. But then, same thing. It's like we had, and I described it on a Facebook post one time, but this was kind of in that early 90s when the whole gang thing started kind of blowing up in pop culture. And we had 2 rival Asian groups. And me and my buddy were sitting there eating lunch, talking, BSing, and you look up and you see one of the courtyards. It's got trees and it's all nicely.
yeah.
It's like a little park. And there are these dudes flying around, kicking the crap out of each other like out of a movie. And there's this one dude who had a broken leg, his football player, and he had a broken leg, and he's standing there hopping around on one leg, knocking people out with his crutch.
Wow.
And they are just going at it. I mean, it was some rival crap.
That's crazy.
And we're sitting there watching this just like, this is amazing. Like, and then the teacher came out and they all ran away except for the dude with the crutch, but his crutch was all bent. And he's like, look what they did to my crutch. But he's the one that was pounding people. Again, I don't think any of them got in trouble.
Wow.
There was no, nobody called the president, no domestic terrorism. It was just kids being stupid in a courtyard.
Well, see, our area that you fought in high school is you went to the smoking area, which was down at the end of a long hallway. So that's where all the big fights were, right? So, yeah, people just gather around. You see money switching hands, So, yeah, that was kind of that whole aspect of that. It's funny because we tell our daughter all this stuff. She's like, you had a smoking area at school? Yeah. Yeah.
We had a teacher's lounge on the second floor that was smelled like smoke like crazy.
Yeah.
We didn't have, it was not allowed. Like, the smoking areas had been.
Yeah, I imagine by your time. Gone. Yeah.
But what we did have was that smoker's bathroom that everybody kind of congregated in, right?
Yeah.
And I remember, it was a couple of different ones, but you'd hear somebody, boom, kick the door, and then you'd hear, pss, 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 pss,
yep, putting them out.
And somebody would be like, gotcha, damn you.
Yeah, it used to happen a lot. But yeah, man, I mean, it's, all the time she would just say, you guys had so much more fun at school than we did. It's like, yeah, you kind of could do whatever. Hey, have you seen, this just came out, but there's a documentary on HBO. It just came out. It's called Class Action Park.
Nuh-uh.
Have you heard anything about it?
Nuh-uh.
Okay.
First I'm hearing of it. I'm writing it down.
Dude, I'm telling you. But it's during the 80s when it was in its heyday. So it's a theme park, a water park more than anything else, called Action Park. And supposedly it was the most dangerous theme park you could go to. And the stories behind it is just freaking unbelievable, man. You got to see it. But it really pinpoints, because they even talk about it on the show about, that was just the 80s, That's just the way we rolled. And these people now that were doing all this stuff back then, they were like, man, if I knew my kids were doing what I was doing back then, ain't no way I'd let them go to a place like this,
Of course.
And, yeah. So it's crazy, you got to see it. If everybody listening out there, do yourself a favor, check out Class Action Park, because it is unbelievable. The guy was in charge of it. It's in New Jersey. The guy was in charge of it. Couldn't get insurance. It was too dangerous of a place. They would not insure it. The dude created his own insurance company, so he could carry fake insurance to cover everything. I'm talking people were dying at this place.
That's insane.
It is, man. So
and rather than just fix it and make it not deadly, he just
we could do a whole show on that show if you end up watching it, because
I'll check it out.
It is unreal, man. I mean, they just built these rides. They didn't ask for engineers. They just did it themselves. It's crazy. So, yeah. But it really pinpoints just kind of how things were, because, we had a guy right on top of, they wouldn't even let us go to prom separatally. I mean, we had a class of 41 kids, really small class, and we're all still really close. But they wouldn't trust us because of all there's a list of things that I could talk about that would be incriminating that we did in that school. And, they wouldn't let us ride separately to prom. So we had to all ride a school bus together to prom.
Oh, no.
But we had one guy that got a little tipsy and climbed on top of the bus. Now, I'm talking 30 miles away from school is where this place is. So you're going down a highway. This dude climbs on top of the bus and tries to teen wolf to prom in a tuxedo. Obviously, he didn't make it. So, off in the ditch he goes. And, yeah. I mean,
did y'all stop and let him back on?
No. No, we went on to prom. That's our class in a nutshell. I mean, it was crazy. Absolutely. To this day, when I see, he was also the sponsor of the class, but he was the ag teacher. Every time I see him, I still apologize. So,
oh, that's awesome.
We were known as that class, right? I mean, but at the same time, people kind of liked us too. But if we had a substitute teacher or somebody that we didn't like, and they came in and gave us a hard time, they didn't get in the subscription to Newsweek. You know, we were that class.
Of course.
Guys getting busted for indecent exposure. I mean, just guys whipping it out and showing it to girls right in the hallway. I mean, just crazy. Well, your headphones that you got on, it reminds me, one day, my stepfather had this cool set of old headphones, 70 with a big pigtail cable, right, for listening to your albums on your big stereo system. I took them to school one day, because these are obsolete at this point, right, because everybody's got the Walkman headphones.
Uh-huh.
So I'm walking down the hall, got about half this cable, and I'm just slinging like I'm, Michigan J. Frog, with these headphones on, and I know everybody's walking up and down the hall, which is really, really tight when you walk down that hallway. And my so-called best friend at the time, we were, I don't know, maybe 30 feet away from each other. He looked down there and he said, "Look at that stupid ass." And I said, "F you, buddy." Well, we didn't know it, but one of the teachers was in her room that was in between the two of us and heard us both. So, yeah, we get called into her room, and our other buddy is out in the hallway, and he's playing distraction. So the teacher says, "So, Rick, I heard you say something out there that wasn't appropriate." And I was like, "I don't know what you're talking about." I said, "This guy was yelling at me, and I don't know what you're talking about." And he's like, "Well, now, Jeff, what did you say?" Just like, I don't know what you're talking about either. And then Scott was out in the hallway, which is right where the water fountain was when you looked out at this teacher's door. And he would keep looking in there and kind of be messing around, knowing that he was, getting on her nerves. And finally she says, "Scott," we were sitting in her room. She said, "Scott," which is the guy out in the hall, you close the door. And he's like, "What?" "Scott, close the door." "I'm not in your door." "Scott, that's not what I said. I said you need to close the door." "I don't understand why you want me to shut the door for." "Scott, close the door." And he said, "All right, I'll shut your GD door." And he slammed it. So the next thing I know, we're out of her office or out of her room, and then Scott's in the room. So he kind of got us out of it. And this was just a day-by-day thing, man. It was just, that was our senior year in school, was absolutely bonkers. I'm going to say there is a picture of me out there on Facebook somewhere of me teen wolfing on top of a green station wagon on the football field in a dress.
I've seen that one,
in a dress, yeah. So, no real reason why. That was school, man.
Well, dude, you're talking about the danger, because you're talking about, like, I remember I did a paper in college, and it was about, it was all actually about business ethics, because it was in a business class. It was talking about the Ford Pinto that would blow up.
Yeah.
And how, it's like once they figured out that this car would blow up, it changed safety standards in general for like the entire industry, but then it had cascading effects on a lot of other industries as well.
Yep.
But the thing that was so crazy was Ford actually did a lot of research, not on the car. It's like they discovered that the car was dangerous when everybody else did. But when they were like, okay, so is safety a feature that you care about? Like, would you trade safety for a lower price car, a lighter car, a faster car, a cooler car, one with more storage, one, it's like it landed right at the bottom of anybody's wish list. And this was just like random polls of people who drove cars.
Right.
Like, if we're Ford and we're making you a car, which of these things do you care about? And it was like safety was like down through, through the floor.
Yeah.
And so they're just like, okay, so nobody cares. Like, we won't bother.
Well, it was the Evel Knievel generation, right? I mean, your grandfather would be driving down the road smoking a cigarette and drinking a beer with no seatbelts on. That was, nobody cared. I can't tell you how many times that we just rode
with you standing on the front seat.
Yeah. I can't tell you how many times we just rode in the back of the truck, right? Just in the bed of the truck. No big deal. So it's weird now because even now I have a problem with like stupid seat belts, because we grew up with that not being an issue. And guess what? Guess who grew up with 2 Ford Pintos in their family? This guy.
Hell yeah.
My grandfather had one, and we had one. I rode in the back seat of a Ford Pinto for many a year, man. And I'm still here.
You got to just make sure you're far out in front of the people who are
right. Yeah, you don't want anybody behind you, being awful close. Yeah. Good times, man.
Well, man, it is. I honestly, dude, I thought we could probably keep on going. We made it to the end of high school, though, so
dude,
we'll save college for another day. Because college for me, I didn't really go.
I didn't do college, but I did so much in my senior year at high school that I'm sure there's many stories of young Rick Morgan I can tell.
I'm down, dude. This has been fun. So I guess let's remind everybody to hit us up on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, on YouTube, on everything else.
Hey, we picked up one more subscriber on YouTube, so we're up to 5.
Awesome. Hey, that's 20% more than we had before. So, that's a 20% increase, man.
Thank you, Dan Bone. Dan Bone is our new listener or a new subscriber on YouTube, which he's aces, man. He's one of my favorite people.
Awesome. Well, let's shut it down, and we will see you next week.